Hey guys, this is Austin, and I'm a filmmaker at the Creek Church here in London, Kentucky. And I'm in my office today and thought that I would walk you guys through some behind the scenes of one of the films that we did last year. It's currently January 2017, but last year in August, I believe, of 2016, we had a night of worship here at our church, and we decided to open it up with this old song, Down to the River. On that particular night of worship, we were going to be baptizing a lot of people, and that's kind of why we picked that song to open it up. We decided that we wanted to create a film element to go along with that song and support it and kind of add to what was going on in the room. So I began to research the song a little bit, and what I found out is that it's believed that the song was used as part of the Underground Railroad, that slaves would sing the song, they would pass the song along, and there were secret messages and different things in the song to help them know when to escape, know how to escape, and things like this. And I thought that was incredibly interesting because we chose Down to the River, the song, and the name for that night of worship. Because we feel like, the people who were being baptized that night, that water represented, a symbol of freedom and a symbol of liberation and safety. And it was interesting to me that for those slaves who were literally physically enslaved here on earth, water was also freedom for them, because they would use the river as a way to escape, because the slave owners would chase them with dogs, and the dogs would pick up their scent. But the slaves knew if they could get to the river that their scent would be covered up and they could escape. And so the water became for them this thing of freedom and this thing of salvation, and we wanted to portray that. So we started to think about how we could incorporate that and use the roots of the song to help visually support the song and tell the story of kind of what was going on. And so we decided to take these two different stories and really just play them out side by side and really try to show the contrast of the emotion in each of the two stories. And so you have the first scene, which is a slave running for his life from his slave master, and really just trying with everything he has in him to get down to the river, because he knows that if he gets there he'll be safe. And then you have these two younger boys, which this takes place later on in time, around the 1940s, during that era. These two younger boys, one's African American, one's Caucasian. They're running through the same place, they're in the same field, and they're going down to the same river. But instead of running for their life, they're just running to play. And this scene that was once incredibly dark is now this happy, joy-filled scene. And the very water that was freedom to the slave, in an entirely different and much more innocent way, is freedom to these young boys. And so the story for us really just represented the progression of man and the movement towards hope, the fact that we can be in dark places, that we can feel like things are hopeless and that things will never change, whether that's on a large scale or if it's just in our own hearts and in our own lives, but that hope is always alive and that change can happen. And so we just wanted to use that film to represent what it is that we believe God can actually do in people's lives, that he can take this water that used to be necessary for safety and freedom, that you would enter trembling to this place of just joy and life and excitement, that he can do that. We had a pretty short timeline. to pull it off, and so we typically always use volunteers from our church in our films. I think we've only used actual actors maybe once or twice, and we're always incredibly blown away by how well our volunteers do, and obviously incredibly thankful and grateful for them being willing to be a part. And so we knew we needed these 2 older gentlemen, we needed 2 young boys, and we found our young boys, Jack and Brian, and then our older men, Josh and Andre. We really had a short window of when we could film because of our schedules and because of their schedule and because of when the event was, and so we had to shoot everything in one night. We actually, once we got it all planned out, had everyone arriving. Talent was actually arriving around 5 o'clock p.m., and we were just going to shoot until the sun was gone. So we shot in 2 shifts because we had 2 different locations. We had one location where they're running through the field down to these woods, and then we had a location where the actual river was, and those were about 20 minutes apart. We shot the boys first in the field, running, doing all those shots, and then we had to jump in the car, drive to the river, and shoot those scenes with them, and then jump back in the car, dry off, drive back to the other location, shoot the 2 older gentlemen in their scene in the field, running and entering the woods and all that kind of stuff. Then we hopped back in the car, back to the river, and finished it up there. And so literally we had about 3 hours to 3 hours and 15 minutes of daylight, and we just had to get it done. We had to make lots of compromises, but it was an incredible process. It was fun, and it was definitely challenging. For those who care, we shot all of this on Sony A7S and old Zacuto shoulder rig that I have, just different pieces that we kind of put together, and the small HD, I think 7-inch monitor, which is awesome, by the way. And we shot this one on a Canon L Series 24-70. We had some drone shots that we wanted to throw in, and so we got a hold of a guy down just south of us and met up with him, who does some drone videos on YouTube. You should check out his channel if you get a chance. Ben Childers is his name. I met with him, and he was there for us that day, and I wasn't sure how much of the drone stuff I wanted, but I knew that there was a couple of shots specifically. So we just let Ben kind of do his thing, while we were rolling, and then we actually got a couple of specific shots for the film. And so when we were with Brian and Jack, I'm just literally holding the camera rig, running behind them, as you can see. And then when we got to the river, I couldn't let the boys wear shoes because it wouldn't fit the period, and they probably wouldn't have ran into the creek with their shoes on. So they're running down this bank, and the rocks are hurting their feet, and I'm gonna have to crawl in the water with the camera, and I brought shoes to wear. But when we got there and they were toughing it out, I decided, I'm gonna go barefoot with them. If it's, if they're gonna go through the pain of doing this and going all out, then I'm gonna do that with them. So kicked my shoes off and ran into the water with them, and did what we had to do. It ended up being fun, but I can tell you, it hurt. It hurt. Those were some tough kids because I was in pain and they were just out there playing. Andre and Josh did a great job. I really, really worked Andre hard.
Get it. Get it. He's after you. Looking back. He's after you. Go, go, go.
Get back here, boy.
Get.
Gotta make my own dinner.
I think there's actually this clip where he falls. We didn't end up using, but that's an actual fall. That's not a fall that I asked him to do. He just gets back up and keeps going. Andre really was a trooper. It was a hot day, but he did whatever I asked him to do, whatever I needed him to do. And I told him afterwards, to quit whining because I was right behind you the whole time carrying a camera, Andre, so toughen up, buddy. And so ultimately in the story, Andre reaches the river.
A run, sprint.
Not necessarily a run. You feel like you're pretty much there. You're kind of slowing down, but a little more urgent than that was.
And so for the final shot, Andre arrives at this house and he looks up and he sees this quilt hanging on the rail, which was a sign of an Underground Railroad house, that it was a safe place to be. For this shoot, everything was shot natural light. We didn't bring in any lighting. We didn't bounce anything. We didn't diffuse anything. We just got what we got and went with it. The time, the schedule did not allow anything else. So we tried to start as late as we could, still giving ourselves enough time, to be able to pull it off. And I think the shadows weren't too harsh. It kind of gives it a little bit of a harder feel for the younger boys, which makes it feel a little more modern anyway, I think. In the color grade, we went black and white with the slave and the master scene, and then for Brian and Jack's scene, the young boys, we saturated things. We threw some brownish red tones in the darks, and we didn't want to go too saturated. I really actually fought with the color on that scene a lot, did a lot of different options. And then, of course, the color being one clue, and of course the wardrobe being another clue that this is a different era, that this is, further down in time. So a couple of the guys here, Zach Seiler, who is our worship pastor, and then Jared Adams, who's our media director, and myself, we created the score for the video, and really Zach and Jared did most of the work on that, but there were these vocal parts we wanted in there, and so we jumped in there into Zach's office and recorded those parts.
That was awful. That was so bad.
But it worked. Sounds pretty cool in the track. I think we actually brought another guy in as well, Ron Green, to help with that too, who's got this amazing booming deep voice. So he added that low end for us. And Zach and Jared really killed the track, in my opinion. I think it's one of the best parts of this film. And we certainly compromised a lot on the shooting of this film and in different ways, but in the end, story is king and story is what matters, and we feel like that the film did its job and that it added to the moment of that live performance of the song Down to the River, and really was just another way for people to connect with and understand the message that we were presenting that night. And I believe 72 people were baptized that night. I think that's the right number. It was an incredible night, and so we were grateful, to be able to contribute to that in a way, and just use the talents and gifts that we feel like God's given us creatively to do that and to reach into people's hearts and lives, and hopefully help shape a moment in an evening that they'll never forget. So hopefully that's helpful for you guys, or at least enjoyable, and if it was, we'd love for you to leave a thumbs up on this video and leave comments. If you have questions, I'll obviously put those in the comments. We'll do our very best to answer those as quickly as we can. Also, we'd love for you to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We're going to be posting a lot of behind the scenes content, really trying to give you guys an idea a little bit more about our process, what it is that we do here and how we do what we do. And part of the plan also is to interview other filmmakers and really try to gain some wisdom from how people across the country are doing what they're doing. And so we'd love to have you. I hope you enjoyed behind the scenes of Down to the River.